with civilian Michael Hanson. It lasted 89 seconds. By the end of that minute and a half, Michael was fatally shot and Detective Try was wounded. The following is the only known recording of the incident from beginning to end, with no edits or enhancements.
How goes it, Mike? We got a search warrant for the property. My partner's got the paper copy, but...
What do you need a search warrant for?
Because we got a search warrant. You'll read it when you get it here.
Huh?
You'll see it when you get here.
Alright.
But we got a search warrant, so...
Why do you guys go chase some real criminals?
What do you mean? I do chase real criminals.
Oh, bullshit. Chasing after Pam, she hadn't done a damn thing.
What's she doing out here?
Bringing me food and water for the animals.
Okay. What's her conditions say?
Huh?
What does her bail conditions say?
I don't know.
She's not supposed to be around animals or possess animals.
Well, you get your fucking warrant.
I already got a warrant. Mike, come back here. You need to leave the property.
I don't have a way out of here. I don't have a
Well, you need to stay off the property, so step off. Or you can go to jail for obstructing, I'm telling you now. Step off the property. Who else is here?
nobody.
Okay, step off the property.
Fuck that. Let me see your
I'll show you the warrant, but you're going to step off the property.
No, I ain't
Yes,
stepping
you
off
are.
nothing until I get a warrant.
You're going to step off this property, I'm telling you now.
When I see a warrant.
Okay, come here. Step off the property.
I'm not stepping off the property.
Step off the property.
Alright.
What do you got there? Get your head.
Fucking asshole.
I've got some secrets that I gotta keep. Yeah, there's emotions swirling underneath. But does it seem daylight? We're feeling something. I've got a question burning through my mind. The only one that leaves me terrified. I've asked myself about a million times, but I'll never
Welcome to Cascade County, Montana, the fifth most populated county in the state at 85,000 people, and home to the third most populated city in the state, Great Falls, at 60,000. The county is located just on the eastern edge of the Rocky Mountains and features the stunning Missouri River winding its way through from corner to corner. Montana is known for many things: diverse wildlife, stunning landscapes, weathered cowboys, Yellowstone National Park, and the dream home of Sam Neill's character in The Hunt for Red October.
I would like to have seen Montana.
It's one of the favorite holiday destinations for folks around the country and has grown in population substantially in the past 5 years. Though with all it has to offer, and there is plenty, not everything is as perfect as it may look. According to statistics compiled by Campaign Zero, per capita, civilian casualties at the hands of Montana law enforcement has been in the top 10 states for 10 out of the last 12 years. It also has an unusually large number of exonerations per capita, meaning that innocent people are thrown in prison only to be released years or even decades later when their case is retried or new evidence is presented. The Montana Innocence Project has played a major role in freeing 8 of these individuals who have lost a grand total of 110 years of their lives in prison and on parole. This very clearly damages these victims in an irreversible way, as well as costing the taxpayer over $3.6 million for those incarcerations. The Montana Innocence Project has 3 more current cases, costing the victims a combined 45 years of their lives. The National Registry of Exonerations records data back to 1989. Their data indicates the average lost time for innocent civilians put in prison in Montana is 9 years, many of whom were wrongfully convicted of murder, sexual assault, and child abuse. Bad interactions with law enforcement seem to have increased in the past 5 years, and the case we'll be focusing on this season happened this year in 2024 between a man named Michael Hanson and a Cascade County Sheriff's Deputy, Sergeant Jacob Try. 2 groups have taken the reins to shed more light on this case. The first is the Montana Citizens Council and Forum on Judicial Accountability, with whom we will be speaking in a future episode. The second group is the Cascade County Libertarian Party. What's your name? What do you do?
My name is Kevin Lillibero. I run a small business for educating children in Great Falls.
You seem to be the driving force behind this whole thing.
Yes.
Yes. How did that happen? Like, why is this particular incident latched onto you so much?
Well, this kind of goes back. It probably goes back being a running for office, right? So when you run for office, you might not win, but you do get. I don't even know if we call them constituents or not, but you get people who vote for you, right? And if the other constituents or the other candidates aren't doing anything, they seem to reach out to those who can probably help them. So I've had a couple of cases come across my board and brought to us, and desperation, asking, hey, is there something you could do or talk to somebody? Because, I mean, we have our inner circles. There's circles in politics. Mm-hmm. And I want to make a note of that. This is not about politics. This is just how we got to this point. Mm-hmm. And I had somebody come up to me and say, will you look at this case from the Sheriff's Department? And I said, yeah, sure, I'll look at it. And so I looked at it, and it was riddled with all kinds of just Fourth Amendment violations and just shady stuff from the Sheriff's Department and things of that nature. So we started looking into it more.
Pause real quick. Your microphone on a little bit. Let's move it to middle. Yeah, that one.
Better?
Sweet. Yeah.
Does that work?
Yep.
So we started looking at these cases, and it was all of these violations that we were seeing with the Fourth Amendment and other things that they were doing. So those were the other cases. So the day that this had happened, the shooting had happened, I just had whimsily put a post out there. I said, well, I bet you he didn't have a warrant. I bet you he went without backup, and I knew nothing about this case at all. I knew nothing about the shooting that day. It was like 2 days after the shooting or something like that. Well, I got a lot of flack. I got flack from the mayor. I got flack from the Sheriff's Department, from Jesse.
Jesse Slaughter is the sheriff of Cascade County. More about him and his previous interactions with the Hanson family will be addressed in a future episode.
And so I was like, okay. You know, they asked me, Jesse asked me, what do I know about the cases? I said, I don't know absolutely anything. And he says, well, why would you post twice on Facebook? You know, we don't want to get the community riled up. And I can understand that. And I said, yeah, okay, I'll back off until we see what the investigation has to say. So we waited and we waited and we waited. And then finally the inquiry came. And once that had happened, we started looking into where this was going, and we just could not believe the egregiousness of this case. And I was right. I was dead on, right? So, and that's unfortunate because I don't want to be dead on. I didn't want any of this to turn out the way it was. You don't want to wish it was a good shoot, because that's not the correct language. You wish that, the things that have happened were lawful. You wish that everything was followed and protocol was put into places for a reason, and that was followed as well, and you hope that would be the case. Well, we found out it wasn't. So I started digging, and I started digging more, and I started digging more, and before I knew it, we were finding violations in this case that were just awful.
Egregious is the perfect word to describe the events of February 23rd. Egregious, above the common, beyond what is usual, or a more of the times definition, would be a bad or condemnatory sense, extreme. You see, everything that occurred that day can be traced back to the purchase of cat food and kitty litter.
I'm Tony Rosales. I do quite a number of things. My day job, I'm a healthcare consultant. I work remotely. That allowed me to reestablish my residency here. So I've gotten involved in some other ways as well. I coach speech and debate with our high school students here. And I also chair our Cascade County Libertarian Party, which I've been doing since we started it about a year and a half ago. And similar to Kevin, been running for offices as part of that as well.
Can you tell me what you know happened, or what you have been told happened on February 23rd of 2024?
Sure. So this all starts with, it actually goes back further than 2024. So the original incident involved Pam Polajewski, who I think it was 2020, and another time as well, there was an animal cruelty incident. Several hundreds of animals had to be taken off the property. Some were in very poor condition. There's a whole discussion on that, and there was a trial related to that as well. While that context is important, that trial or that specific case isn't really the issue to what happened on February 23rd, other than providing the background and context to it. So an off-duty officer saw Pam purchasing cat food or some sort of animal supply, so cat food, cat litter from a local Walmart. Under her current conditions at that point, she wasn't allowed to be in possession of animals. So, that probably would have sparked some curiosity from the law enforcement officer if he knew of the case, which a lot of the law enforcement here did because they were involved in it in 2020. So he was off duty, and then he ended up calling a detective who was on duty, Detective Jacob Try. And so Try ended up doing the investigation on the 23rd. He first went to Walmart to confirm what was bought there or what he was told by the off-duty officer. So he got some images from that, and then he had another deputy go and run surveillance over at her property, which is just outside of Cascade County, or just outside of Great Falls, still in Cascade County. So as the other deputy is running surveillance, and surveillance is sort of a weird term to be using here, because if you go out to the property, there really is no one else should be there other than whoever lives on that property. It's a dirt road that there's no other access to it other than that dirt road. So if there isn't a law enforcement there, it's pretty clear that someone is there. If they're an unmarked car, you know it's someone there. If it's an actual marked car, you know it's law enforcement. So Pam was on the property, and she did end up spotting that individual, and she ended up leaving in her truck. She drove to a local grocery store, Smith's Groceries, where Detective Try eventually would meet with the deputy as well. They ended up losing Pam, but they found her vehicle. Throughout that whole surveillance process, Detective Try was submitting his warrant for investigation of the property. And then while they were at Smith's, they actually got a call from the judge to get sworn in, and then they had a search warrant to be able to go search it. Eventually they made eventually Detective Try went to the property, and he sent the other deputy to get an evidence tech from the office. So it's just Detective Try on that county road. Before he gets to the property, he's trying to, again, run surveillance while he's waiting for his backup. But he stops midway to put on his vest, and then as he approaches the rest of the residents, the Mike Hanson, who lives on the property, spotted him, asked what he's doing there. There was an exchange of Detective Try letting him know he has a warrant for the property to chat or to look at things based off of what they had saw from Pam and what she was purchasing at Walmart. Mike was wanted to see the warrant, and before he would step off the property, he wanted to see the warrant. Detective Try didn't show him the warrant based off of what we know from the evidence. And eventually, because Try wanted him to step off the property so there wasn't any obstruction of evidence, Detective Try jumped the fence. In that moment, he saw that Mike had his hand in his pocket, and at that point there was an exchange of shots between Detective Try and Mike Hanson. There's a lot more complexities to that, but I'm sure we'll be getting into more of those discussions. But ultimately, from February 23rd, it started with an off-duty officer seeing Pam buying cat food, and it ended with Detective Try on a property with just himself and Mike Hanson, and the result was Mike Hanson was shot twice, once in the neck and then another in the chest, and Jacob Try was shot once in the arm. Mike Hanson ended up dying later on from his gunshot wounds.
Even though there's an audio recording of the incident, and there were only 2 people directly involved, this case, as well as the decade of events leading up to this case, are very complex. But before we tackle the complexities, we're going to start with the actual incident itself. In September of 2024, we went with Kevin Leatherbarrow to the scene of the crime. Both of us wanted to get a sense of how it could have played out and why Mike was dead after only 89 seconds. The official story put forth by law enforcement was that Sergeant Try went out to Wexford Lane to run surveillance, something which we've already pointed out is basically impossible without being noticed. When Mike approached the gate to see who it was, Try got out of his vehicle and made contact. Keep in mind that Sergeant Try is in an unmarked vehicle and in plain clothes, with the addition of his bulletproof vest. They then have their interaction, the audio that you heard at the beginning of the episode. Mike repeatedly asks to see the warrant while Sergeant Try refuses to show him unless he steps off the property. Mike begins to walk away, Try jumps the fence, and asks Mike, "What do you got there?" Sergeant Try then fires his weapon. The magazine malfunctions after the shot goes off and he attempts to clear his gun as Mike says, "Fucking asshole," and pulls out a snub-nosed revolver from his pocket and begins firing at Try, hitting him in the shoulder. Try clears his malfunction and fires back, ultimately hitting Mike, who continues to fire his weapon as he falls to the ground. Sergeant Try then retreats to his car and calls for help. Let me reiterate here that this is the official story. Much of it is correct. One crucial detail is an outright lie. Sergeant Try fires a Glock 9mm from very close to the recorder. Mike Hanson fires a .38 revolver from about 8 yards away. They have distinctive audio signatures, as you can see. What we are able to prove is that Sergeant Try fired his first shot, took 2.16 seconds to clear his magazine, and then fired his second shot before Mike was able to get a single shot off. Mike subsequently fired, followed by 2 more shots from Try, followed by Mike emptying his revolver as he assumedly falls to the ground. This sequence of events strongly suggests that Mike didn't have his gun out until after he was shot at the first time, leading one to question why Sergeant Try pulled his weapon first.
All right, so here's the position of everything.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we would have had, the camper would have been right here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then Try's vehicle is right where you guys are. So right about back here to here.
Mm-hmm.
There's the dip in the road that he was speaking of.
Mm.
So if he wanted to do surveillance, that's the position that he would want to be in.
Yeah, totally. Like down below that.
Yeah.
Down below that dip.
From the pictures of this, you would think that this trailer sits back a lot further than it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's right on top of the gate.
Yeah, totally. It's right there.
Who wouldn't see a car roll up?
Right. And he was living in the trailer or in
We're
the camper?
We're unsure if he was living in the camper or the trailer. But that's irrelevant. Either way, you're going to see a car
There.
from this distance from here coming in,
Yeah.
no matter if they think he was warned or not.
Yep.
So he puts his vest on down below, he says, the dip. And then he rolls up here. He breaks surveillance as soon as he rolls up over the top of that hill.
Totally. Yeah.
There's-
totally.
There's no,
Yeah, you can't be.
you can't beat that. And then he comes up through here. The camper is right on top of the gate, and it should be right here in this area. And then,
Yep.
and then, well, he's rolling on down from the top, so this is probably how Mike came down. That's a 9mm. That's a 9mm. Why didn't they collect all the evidence? Do you know anybody out here that shoots a 9mm? Can you get a picture of that? See the caliber on the bottom and what type it is? I can't stand still. 9mm Luger. Silver casings. I mean, we're not messing with evidence because they said that they got all of it. But if there's a 9mm round up here, and they also have in their inquiry that they did not find all of the rounds, I do believe, I'm gonna have to re-look at that, but I think that they said that they didn't find all of them.
Yeah, how could they not? They got the flags right there.
Exactly. There was snow on the ground, correct? But, I mean, that's not gonna, that wouldn't stop a metal detector if they would have brought a metal detector out here or something. Why wouldn't you bring a metal detector out here?
Right. Makes sense if you would.
Right, and this was here, right? So it's right where I'm exactly where he is right now.
Where Try was.
Right where Try was. Yep. So if I get over the fence, so my ejection port would be like this, right?
Totally.
So my ejection, it goes all right. All rounds should land right where that round is.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And we know he didn't bring any of his radios. He didn't bring a radio out here. He brought his old vest. He didn't bring any non-lethals out here with him. He brought no taser, none of his stuff, which he admits that's negligence. Just for his safety alone, let alone the safety of anybody else. I mean, law enforcement would probably argue that a taser is something that helps them de-escalate the situation in a non-lethal manner,
Totally.
right?
Right.
So there is no question in my mind, this is totally negligent homicide. He was not supposed to be here serving a warrant. He was only supposed to be doing surveillance, and he broke all protocol.
As demonstrated, the lie about the gunshots was not the only misconduct by Sergeant Try and the Sheriff's Office. Here's a list of the code, procedural, and rights violations that we believe Try committed on that day. He was there for surveillance only, not to present a warrant. Once spotted by Mike, he went in without backup. He was in plain clothes and an unmarked vehicle, and failed to identify himself as police. As such, he unlawfully recorded a second party without notifying them. He arrived at the property with no non-lethal weapons. He made no attempt at de-escalating the situation, even just by walking away and calling for backup. He refused to present the warrant to Mike, and as such, when he finally leapt the gate, he was trespassing on private property. He used lethal force without warning, violating the Fourth Amendment. The use of force must be justified, and there is no indication, other than Try's testimony, that firing his weapon was justified. The state performed its own investigation into the event. Not only did it conclude with no disciplinary action, they awarded Sergeant Try the Law Enforcement Purple Heart. Because of the glaring mistakes and misconduct in the inquest, Kevin, and subsequently Tony, decided to begin their own investigation, which has led us here today.
There's actually a lot of things the investigation didn't look into, including focusing more on Mike as opposed to, and even characterizing Mike as opposed to looking at anything about Detective Try or making sure. I mean, even his bullets were accounted for.
Right.
We still have no clue.
We still have no clue.
How many bullets were in that magazine that he was firing in.
Yep.
But we know very well the different analysis of the firearm that Mike was using. So, all of the public information that was available at the inquest, we've been digging into it. The recordings of the shooting, we've been digging in and just trying to understand what happened in those. I don't know, like it wasn't even that long of a
40
time
seconds.
frame. Yeah.
It went sideways.
Yeah, very, very quickly. And from there, we've been trying to identify from the very beginning of seeing Pam in Walmart, what were the different incidences that the sheriff's office could have taken a step back and thought, is this the appropriate action for us to be taking in this moment? And it was multiple failures, even before Detective Try got to the residence, that they could have avoided a community member being shot.
We have to start thinking that these are just citizens of Cascade County. These are your everyday citizens that walk down the street. Crazy or whichever these markers that they put on them is not illegal. It's not something that we can judge on, because you want to define what crazy is. I would love to hear that definition of what that is. I really would. And so these are just citizens. He's a citizen. He should be treated like a citizen, and he was not. He's immediately treated like he was garbage. You can hear it on the video. Detective was condescending. He was threatening right off the bat. He was provoking. He refused to show him the warrant when he asked multiple times nicely. You can hear how nice he actually asked him. These are our citizens. If we treat our citizens like this, we've lost who we are.
Bias is innate in humans. How one person experiences an event can differ greatly from how someone else experiences the exact same event. There is no such thing as being unbiased when it comes to news, documentaries, podcasts, or even investigations. We end the episode with this statement simply to remind you, the audience, that we have our own opinion on what happened during the incident upon which this season focuses. We will not try to hide it, nor will we try to deceive you. However, we believe that up to this point, the public has only been presented with one side of the story, the side deemed appropriate and accurate by law enforcement. We believe that those in power should be able to stand up to even the most severe scrutiny, especially in matters of life and death. So we will present every bit of information that we can in order to inform you and allow you to form your own opinion on what happened to Mike Hanson. So stay tuned, set your reminders, turn on alerts, subscribe to the channel. We're airing this show on nearly every audio and video platform. New episodes will come out every 2 to 3 weeks as we continue our investigation. Thank you so much for sticking around until the end. We'll see you next time on the Cascade Effect. The Cascade Effect is brought to you by Peaceful Sea Network. Theme song by Jay Denton and Hannah Parrott. Special thanks to Kevin Leatherbarrow, Tony Rosales, Tim Hanson, Arliss Hanson, Bart Crabtree, the Cascade County Libertarian Party, and the Montana Citizens Council on Judicial Accountability. Copyright 2024, all rights reserved.